So, as of a couple hours ago, the United States and Israel launched a joint coordinated strike on Iran. Now, if you haven't been following the news, this may seem shocking, but if you have, it's not shocking at all. With the amount of resources that's being poured into the region, it was not a question of if, but rather when. The fascinating part that I do want to talk about is how, when this first was reported, it was that Israel launched a preemptive strike on Iran. Now, two things. A preemptive strike is bullshit. It's literally propaganda. There is no such thing as a preemptive strike. It's simply a strike. It's simply an attack. And then after that information came out, the question was being floated like, was the United States in on this? Did the United States know? And then very quickly it came out the United States and Israel launched a joint coordinated strike on Iran, which and then one more piece of information. There were like 10 minutes later, the United States, it was reported on CNN that the United States is committing strikes on Iran. So the reason why I lined up those three stories together is that Israel never does anything without the approval of the United States because Israel is an extension of the United States of America. Israel is our military base in the region, and very rarely do they commit acts that do not align with our own goals. So, from that perspective, that's the story. And I do want you, right, and I do want you guys to know that if you're following mainstream news, please be mindful of that information. Please be mindful of that fact because be it CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they're all getting their notes from the State Department. It's all the same story, and there's rarely coverage and viewpoint of the other side. Now, the reason why I mentioned the preemptive strike is that Iran is well within their rights to a retaliatory strike. Now, that might seem scary. That might seem scary. What are you talking about? if because if that happens, if a retaliatory strike happens, it will be the justification for why we go to war with Iran. Now, this is it. There might if this might be just testing Iran's, I guess, restraint. But even then, it's just like, man, oh man, your country is being bombed and you're just being forced to restraint. That is essentially what they're testing here. What is Iran's level of restraint that would justify full blown war? That's my read on it. But to take a step back, Trump released an 8-minute video talking about why he's doing it. It's a regime change war. He's talked about it ever since the 12-day war back in June of last year. And keep in mind, what was it again? It was the same thing. The preemptive strikes because of the nuclear threat. And then during that operation, the United States supposedly bombed Iran's nuclear sites beyond recovery. It was a successful war. Those gentlemen that flew the bombers, they're great, whatever, right? And now suddenly, magically, 8 months later, you have Huckabee saying like, Iran's a week away from nuke, or weeks away from nukes, and now doing the whole song and dance again of saying that Iran with the nuke is it's happening. Truth be told, the region would be far safer if Iran had a nuke. If Iran had a nuke, the region would be far safer. Do you guys remember when Israel, when India and Pakistan had their little squabble? They had their own squabble, right? And very quickly, I don't recall who was on the phone with them, but very quickly they resolved that because those are two nuclear states. Very quickly, and since then, and of course there's still little things here and there, but that came to a boiling point. And so bring it back to Iran. If Iran had a nuke, the region would be far safer. So, but again, that's the situation, right? And throughout this whole peace process, throughout this whole ordeal, right? Iran and America, they've been having this whole negotiation process for the past couple weeks, and truth be told, it hasn't been going anywhere. It hasn't been going anywhere, and you can tell or from my perspective and from a lot of people's perspective, you can tell that essentially the United States did not really want a deal because they laid out something that was a hard line for Iran, that is, that they wanted to limit Iran's ballistic missile capabilities. Now, if you know what's going on in the region, that is pretty much a hard line for them because the only reason why this was a preemptive strike and the preemptive strike was limited is that Iran has ballistic missile capabilities that can attack Israel. Now, without that information, without those missiles, without those weapons, the what would be happening in Iran right now would be far more deadly, sadly, because that's the whole situation where unless okay, to take a step back, right? The world would be safer if no one had nukes. Obviously, the world would be safer if no one had nukes, obviously. But in a world where nuclear power states can just do whatever it wants to other countries without any fear of retaliation, other countries without nukes, it's just unless you have a nuke, you are at the it's just when. It's not a question of if, but when. If you do not have a nukes and you find yourself at the being in opposition to any major powers, it's not a question of if, but rather when. So to tie it all back together, right? The situation they've been going through the negotiation process. It hasn't been going along, and the United States truly was not expecting this to lead to somewhere, especially of threatening to where a deal would need to severely restrain Iran's ballistic missile capabilities. They were not. It's honestly like you're negotiating with someone and you put an absurd number, knowing like you don't want to sell it. That's essentially what it was. And so, anyways, this man decided to launch a war on a Friday night. It's just keep in mind, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, where are you, man? Where are you? Waited. They took the weekend off in order to vote for the War Powers Act resolution, whatever it is, right? Took the weekend off, so now Trump can do whatever he wants in the region. Trump can do whatever he wants in the region. And then before the State of the Union, he had that weird speech where he was talking to reporters, talking like, "Hey, Trump needs to give us a reason in order to do." It's bullshit. The motherfucker wants to attack Iran. He wants to do all of that information. It's just, please, Trump, please give us something. And then, lastly, remember at the State of the Union, man, when Trump was talking about, oh, Iran can't have a nuke. All the motherfucking Democrats stood up. Remember that shit? All the Democrats stood up. Elizabeth Warren, she was clapping. God, oh man, oh Trump, oh you're spitting right now, buddy. Like that was the situation. Keep in mind that happened on Tuesday, and now Friday night, and you're gonna see all the Democrats like, oh, no war with Iran, no war with Iran. Bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. Because ultimately, and this is for real the last part, you can't say, sorry, you can't say Iran can't have a nuke and then try to say like, oh hey, no war with Iran. Like that it's just ultimately one leads to the other. One leads to the other. But anyways, that's the situation, and yeah, I'll be following along.